Think of how your parents disciplined you. Maybe they hit, yelled, took away privileges, grounded you, mocked or belittled you, or maybe they just weren't there at all. Maybe you felt misunderstood, alone, or even deserving of that treatment. To you, that was your normal. We learn so much from our own parents, and we get to forge our own path for our own families. You don't have to repeat the same mistakes. Learning positive parenting techniques now will break generational cycles and prepare your children and their children and their children's children to reach new heights and make their ancestors even more proud. In behavior science, punishment is a consequence that decreases a behavior. We think of yelling, spanking, taking away privileges, timeouts, etc. as punishments, but punishment isn't a specific action. It has to do with what it does to a certain behavior. Negative consequences like these are common control tactics that adults rely on, and while they're occasionally necessary, they should rarely be needed. Negative consequences can backfire, making problems worse and longer lasting, and hurt family relationships in the process. Positive alternatives are healthier and accomplish more good in the long run. This is why it's so important to collect data. We need to know when something isn't working and keep parents from spinning their wheels. The other side of the coin is unintentional punishment. For example, your child comes to you upset about something that happened at school. You tell them to stop overreacting, and as a result, they're less likely to come talk to you about something that's bothering them. So, without yelling, without timeout, without any other form of discipline, that bid for connection from your child was just punished. It doesn't have to be a disciplinary action that you take to make someone not want to come back and share with you. Many people have been on the receiving end of either physical or verbal or emotional abuse by a parent, and that gets justified with explanations like, well, my parents were like that with me and I turned out fine. I'm just doing what I need to do to toughen them up and prepare them for the world. Your parents didn't know any better, but you do. So think about your own emotions around the way that you were parented. Did you feel safe and loved? Did you learn what to do or what not to do? Probably some combination of both. So why do we punish? First of all, it's within our own learning history. We know what our parents did with us. Bad or misbehavior is the most noticeable and the least tolerable. So it calls generally for a response from an adult. It is indeed more difficult to recognize good behavior as it's occurring than it is to recognize bad behavior. If you're feeling like you always have to yell at your kids and they won't listen any other way, it's because they've learned that misbehavior is a great way to get your attention, whether it's negative attention or positive attention. It gets you to turn away from whatever it is you're doing and to pay attention to them 100%, which is that backfiring effect that I mentioned. You think you're punishing, you're getting frustrated because you have to do it so often, but it's also not working. It's actually making the problem worse because now your kids know exactly how to gain your attention. Another reason why we punish is that it's culturally pretty acceptable. We have a cultural belief that good behavior should be expected, not rewarded, that parents who are good parents should be able to control their child's behavior in public, and that their child should be well behaved in public. And people can be very judgmental if you choose to use positive parenting strategies, redirection, etc., instead of rushing to stop the behavior, then you might feel shamed as a parent. A parent who is too soft, a parent who doesn't want to deal with their child's behavior, etc., etc. A lot of really negative connotations. Behavior in the traditionally expected way, then you're not being a good parent. Now that you know some of the misconceptions of punishment, why do we keep doing it? Mainly, it makes you feel like you did something. It was a swift response to a behavior. We talked a little bit about gaining attention before. However, You can still yell and give your kid what it is they were looking for. You can yell while still letting them get out of doing their homework. You can yell while still letting them play video games that day. There are plenty of ways to mess punishment up. Misapply it, use it even though it doesn't have any positive impact. The effects of punishment aren't even long lasting. This is one of the biggest drawbacks of punishment, is that it typically teaches the suppression of a behavior, but it doesn't teach any skills the child needs to learn in order for the because behavior is communication. Behavior can mean I don't want to do this. Behavior can mean get me out of here. Behavior can mean, hey, I really want that back. There's a lot of ways that behavior is telling us something. And if we ignore what the behavior is telling us, then we are just setting ourselves up to fail, to never really fill in the area that needs growth, and to just positive behavioral approaches focus on teaching communication, self-regulation, and coping skills so that misbehavior doesn't need to happen anymore. In short, punishment curbs behavior in the moment, but it doesn't teach skills that would make the behavior unnecessary. When the person who doles out the punishment isn't there, the behavior is still going to happen again because we didn't teach the skills. And without specific training and education in this area, parents are not going to be able to evaluate whether or not their disciplinary methods are working or if they're even healthy or